Hey everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and another episode of the Indie Show. Tonight we are talking Reborn, and I got three people with me that all are big fans of this series. So, and apparently my camera's not going to refocus at all. Let's see. Hey, there I am. So let's see if we can get these guys in here and get talking about this. First up, I got the Unruly Simon. What's going on, my friend?
What's up, y'all?
You're on like half of these or more now. Like you're on almost all of these tonight.
I'm chilling on the back porch. It's about 70, low 70s. It's perfect.
Nice. That is perfect. It was actually really nice here today. A little cool now, but not too bad. So it was a really nice day. We also got Hialeah Comic Bro. What's going on, Ro?
What's up, guys? Man, very happy to be here. Reborn is one of my favorite reads.
Nice.
Got me back right when I was getting back into comics, so I'm looking forward to this.
Nice. Well, I've managed to get you on for a couple of your favorite reads then.
Yeah. That was a longer read. That was a
much longer read. I don't want to talk about that. So, because I'm not exactly sure about a couple of things with this one, but and then we got Jimmy the Geek Aficionado. What's going on, man?
What is up? And I couldn't agree with Hialeah more. This is honestly a fantastic read. It's a great story. It's probably one of my favorite indie books of the last decade, honestly.
Yeah.
So I want to start there just because I didn't get a chance to double check and look. When did this come out? Like originally?
2016.
2017. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not as old as I actually thought it was because
this one says 1016.
1016. Okay. So it started toward the end of 2016, probably ended in 2017. Because I was curious because it does say end of book one at the end, but I was like, I had heard nothing about like any sort of continuation with this.
And neither have we. But we also know that Mark Millar is not exactly bound to a schedule.
No. This is true.
And I actually have a funny Mark Millar story about that I'll share later.
Yeah.
So in the hardcover, there's like a little interview with him at the end of it, and he's talking about he's already got 5 volumes plotted.
Oh, really?
What the hell, dude? Get it going already.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, at this point, it might be Capullo's schedule.
Yeah.
This is true.
Well, and it's also, I didn't realize that how much of this stuff has been made movies, and he's got executive producer money out of every single one.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and everything he's done has been optioned by Netflix at this point. So I think he's been spending a lot of time trying to get stuff to Netflix. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you, I don't know if anybody else has the single issues besides Hialeah and Slabs, but they're all stamped with Millar World on the back, right?
Yeah.
So he's definitely done, made a significant attempt to get as much as he can, optioned into film.
Yeah. So I want to shout out this chat real quick. We got a couple people hanging out with us. Luis Ramirez, what's going on? And always here for these discussions of books. Gore Vidal, what's happening, Gore?
Gore.
Always has a good perspective on this kind of stuff. Glad you could join us. So I always like to start. How did you discover Reborn? Let's start with you, Jimmy. We'll start down there.
So this was one of those things that was it was on the shelf at my LCS, and it got me with the covers, right? These Greg Capullo covers, and there's a lot of variants that I didn't get, but they were all just really well done, and they were striking, right? They drew me in, so I started looking for the issues where I could. It's like I saw. He had my LCS had a couple of number 1s still sitting on the rack and like a number 5 or something like that. So I started hunting them down. And when I read the story, it wasn't what I was expecting, right? I mean, I don't know really what I was expecting, kind of looking at it. I mean, yes, there's a fantasy aspect to it. And from there, it's, it really kind of it really grabs you, right? It really sucks you in because the concepts behind it, right, is what's really interesting, right? Like the way that he handles it, and he brings it out. And then honestly, and then the ending just kind of gets you. You're like, nah.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that as we go through it. But yeah, it was like I said, it was the covers that really kind of got me into like wanting to read it. So, cover by.
What about you, Hialeah? How did you discover Reborn?
Well, I think this was right around the time when I got back into comics after like 20 years or whatever. And I was going to this little shop by my house that's no longer here. And I don't know if the owner suggested it or I just picked it up, but I was reading a lot of more independents. And I read the first one and I fell in love with the story. That first issue just grabbed me. I thought it was it just grabbed me, man. I thought it was just a great story right there, and I just wanted more. And I remember I would be waiting for the next issue to come out, and like what Jimmy said, amazing covers. There's so many. This is probably my favorite. It's the Jock one. That cover right there. But there's also one of number 2 that has like the bad guy on it. That's pretty badass. And we'll get into it more. We'll get into it now.
What about you, Unruly? How did you find Reborn?
All right, so 4 years ago, I was working in Clemson, and the supply house, I got there, and the supply house was like 40 minutes away from the freaking job. Actually, it was in Greenville, South Carolina. So I get there, and we'll have your order in an hour. The truck hadn't got here yet. So, it was right in the middle of a bunch of little strip malls and shit, and they had a second and troll. I walked in and dropped about $200 on trade paperbacks, and this was one of them. It's a hardcover, but it was one of them. And I read it and immediately bought the first issue in a 9/8.
Nice. So, I want to get to something like Jimmy mentioned, is that it was not what he was expecting. This is... I didn't read it till last night because I just didn't get a chance to read it over the weekend like I'd planned. I didn't read it till last night. And I really had never looked into what it was. But I don't know what I'm kind of like Jimmy. I don't know what I expected. This was not it. And that's not bad or anything. It was just not where I was thinking it was going. Like, just from the title and this cover art and everything else, I was like, and I don't even know how to describe what it was I was expecting, but this was not it. It was very different. It was a very different take. I do want to get into kind of the themes behind it. I don't know if we want to start there or not, but I feel like most of the core of the story is about the theme about what's beyond this life and like what our perspective is and what we think about, heaven and hell, and
no. All right, guys, how you guys doing? So, heaven and hell. Where else?
Well, that was interesting to me because I don't know that I believe in the afterlife. You know what I'm saying? So it's a source of endless fascination to me.
I got the mood for my own stream.
Right.
Shh, we're talking, JP.
Okay.
There's still going on, JP.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, and but there's very much, I don't know what you guys were saying in the meantime, but yeah, what are your thoughts about this?
Let Unruly go again.
Yeah, go ahead, Unruly.
Repeating that again.
Yeah, it's freaking fascinating. I love how, I guess this is, most cultures do believe that we're somehow separated into the good and the bad after we die,
Yeah.
But like I was telling them when you were gone, JP, I don't know that I believe in the afterlife. I mean, I'd like to. It's comforting, and I would hope I would wind up with the good, on the good side. But I ain't no guarantees. But this was my introduction to Capullo's artwork. That blew me away.
Yeah.
You've never seen a Spawn cover?
No, dude, I wasn't picking up. I've got the first 30, 40 issues of Spawn, and that was before his time, I think. And I haven't read anything since. But
Yeah,
I
that
did
makes
just
sense.
buy that first big honking compendium they put out.
No. So what do you guys think about this portrayal of what's beyond? Like, Jimmy, what were your thoughts? Because I'm really talking about, everybody has that perspective.
Yeah, and that is, well, obviously it's the root of the story, right? It talks about that. If you were a good person, in your life, then you become you're reborn as a citizen of, was it?
Yeah, how do you pronounce that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Asteria, something like that.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me get the page. And this is half this show, people. Finding the page.
Yeah, finding the
And Adystria. Asteria?
Yeah, Adistria.
Adystria. There you go.
And then, if you were a shit in life, you wind up in the Darklands.
Yeah.
So kind of like think of that like Mordor.
Yeah.
If you're visualizing it, right? Because some of the visuals, really kind of shows that, especially in issue 2, when Bonnie's looking out over it. But like the cool thing is, like, it speaks about the reunification of people, of your loved ones, right? Meeting them again. But it also talks about having a life beyond your life, right? So that, obviously, I mean, you could have, lived an entire life again before your loved ones, meet with you later. But the other cool thing is the pets, right?
Yeah.
Your pets meet you there too, especially them damn cats.
We'll get to the cat.
What a great little take, right? On the cat.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot take. How about you, Hialeah?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Way to follow along.
This take on, it is a take on heaven and hell. I mean,
Yeah, it totally is. I it's like what Jimmy was saying about Mordor and the Lord of the Rings. It also reminds me of the movie Legend. With Tom Cruise. It's total. The bad guy to me is a total rip on that.
Yeah, kind of with big horns and everything.
Yeah, with the horns. But yeah, it's what comes next, and I thought it was just an interesting take. I don't want to get into what I believe, but this was a nice take on. Wow, wouldn't that be cool? And I loved it, and I loved it. I like the meeting of the other family members, and they're at different points in their life. They don't go. They don't. They're not. They don't go there, and they're 80 years old if that's the time they pass. There's a certain time and place that they're back there. I thought that was a great take. You brought up Capullo's art. Can I just show one page?
Yeah, I was going to spend a lot of time on Capullo's art, but yeah, go ahead. We can get there. We can go there now.
I can't stand this Capullo art, and I think it's everything else is great in the book. I love it everywhere else, but dude, don't draw old people, man. I don't know what that is. I just think that's horrible.
Well, she's much farther along in life.
I know, but that looks like she's a prune face. It's like she's been underwater and her face just got. I just don't think it's the nicest. The rest of the book, I love.
It's what happens to skinny old people. Like fat old people, it pushes out the wrinkles a lot.
I just do not like his take on that old woman. I'm sorry.
I mean, she's supposed to be what is she?
Like
78. She's only supposed to be 78.
Yeah, no, because there's a picture of her when she's 77 and she looks better.
She was 63 plus 15.
I think there's a combination here because she said her mother passed at 60 on her 63rd birthday, and she was 15 years old.
Right, older.
Yeah. I think part of it is he's trying to portray that she's both old and sick.
Yeah, and she's a smoker.
Yeah, and I think he's just a little bit like.
Dude, I just think
I would agree. It's a little excessive. He goes a little overboard with the wrinkle.
I just think he missed the mark on that, man.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
Maybe it's the inker's fault. Maybe he made those lines a little too heavy.
It could be, but the rest of the book is gorgeous. I I'm glad I picked this up when I got back into comics because it kept it going for me. You know, it was one of the right books to find when I got back into comics because it made me fall in love with comics all over again.
Right?
And
It's
I'm
like
glad it was this
Comic
story.
Man, it's like Comic Man Andy finding Saga. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
it pulls you in.
This book had it for me, and then funny, but I got into Saga soon after. So
And there's some of this. It's very kind of like similar to Saga in terms of like the character types and the like the designs, right?
Yeah.
The character designs. You know, obviously not the TV heads, but
like the cat. The cat's the total could be a character in Saga. Totally.
yeah, it's like the dark. What do they call it? The Darklands characters. Or you're definitely falling in line with that.
Yeah.
So here's because I'll start here because there's so much good I want to talk about, but I do want to talk about my one complaint, and I kind of want your guys' perspective on this. And maybe it's a little bit of the take of where he's going with it's kind of your personal afterlife, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Is I'm okay with like, her father and the pet and being found or whatever and trying to find her husband. I do feel like there's a few too many other people that like for this world and all the people that are going to this afterlife, like it feels in some ways a little too personal. Like there's too many connections to her existing life, whereas there should have been just more random people. I feel like that was a weakness of the storytelling for me. It kept taking me out of the book. Like, really, you're going to find another person like in the first 40 people you meet that you knew, and like. What was your take on like how far they went with that? Because I went back to like because it was when I was reading it was bothering me, but later I was like, well, maybe this is really like how much of this is her version of what she's going the afterlife is, and how much of this is really a world? Like, if that makes any sense. Like, I mean, is this world really real, or is this just her perspective on what the afterlife is like, and like? Other people would be different, and maybe none of this is actually happening in a way. I don't know. It was something that took me out of it because made me think that because there were so many connections, and I felt like there was too many for it to just be truly just another world that we were going on to. What did you think about that? I'm just curious because that was something that like I kept thinking about. I was like, so is this actually the world she's moved on to, or is this just her mind filling the space, like to a certain degree?
Who wants to go?
Jimmy looks confused, so maybe I won't start with him.
No, I'm not confused. I think I might have a contrary perspective from.
Okay,
go. So I prefer to go.
Contrary.
I prefer to go last.
Okay, you want to go last? Okay, Unruly. I think you were ready to go.
Well, I didn't get that at all. I mean, to me, it's like maybe in this afterlife, the people you were close to, you kind of pop up in the same spot or close enough that you can gather together. Because how do you say that to this world again?
Oh gosh, I can't. I don't know.
What was the question?
World again.
Asteria.
Because look, that's a pretty big town right there.
Right, and that was my complaint though. That's this huge town, and yet every other person's like, I know you. We went to school together. We went, and that was like, wait.
So you have to consider the scenarios where that happened, right? That was happening mostly at the time where she was being welcomed, right? So she starts off as being this prophet, or that there is a prophecy about her, and when she comes, and that she's going to be the one to do this, right? And you get introduced to the characters, right? So first off, you get introduced to the characters, and like the main character who receives her when she gets there is her father, right? Who got there as a baby, where some people like start older, but so they're in this town, in the land of Adistria, which I think is like the entire, like the whole map, right?
Right.
They didn't really kind of go into what town that is that she's in, but yes, those people are close to them. So it seems to me, like what I took from that is that those people that have those connections, that's where they show up. That's where they, that's where they end up. right? Is because they're in that area, right? So these people from somewhere in some suburb of Minneapolis. D-Ron will have to help us with that one.
What about you, Hialeah? What did you think about that?
I'm on team JP. I think it's a weakness in the story because I was asking all those same questions. It's like this is too convenient. I mean, I don't want to ruin the book right now because we're just getting into it. But there's like a major person that comes is her friend, is her best friend.
Right.
The antagonist also tied to her in a way. I think I understand what you're saying, but also at the end, when stuff is going on, and she's coming back and forth. I know if you guys read it, she's coming back from, and maybe it's just like you say, maybe it's her mind filling in things, and it's a dream, or it's imagined, or we don't know what it is. I don't think it is, but I just think it's too convenient. I think it's a weakness because I was asking the same questions. Oh, okay, and she had this person. I had you in junior high, or what was it? Or I was your teacher.
Yeah, like half the bad guy, or 3/4 of the bad guys had like a personal connection to her.
Personal connection, the cat, and all that. I just thought it was. I thought it was a weakness because I was asking all those same questions. I think it's cool. I think it's cool, but it just seemed like it was too much connection.
I think the only one where there was really a kind of, this was very, surprising was her friend, right? Yeah. Her friend being as big a person as she was,
right,
literally and figuratively, but, the station that she actually had, but, she was one of those people who was incredibly good. So she wound up with a higher station in the story.
Yeah.
But everybody else, it didn't seem to me to be kind of an issue, right? Like, so the main guy, isn't just a villain for her because she'd never met him.
No.
The villain for somebody else.
Right.
And that was, one of the big drivers, but it was because he committed such a heinous act, right? He was so horrible in life, but he had all these dark power, right? He was so massive a person, right? And it just got worse. But then when you think about the fact that the whole story is about a prophecy about this one person and her coming, it doesn't surprise me that there's all these people around her that are either like, they want to touch the prophet or that they want to be there, they want to be involved, right? Or like I said, I'm like, maybe this town is like, their town. It's like the people who died there went to this section and that's, where she shows up. So I didn't find that it was a plot hole to the story. I think it was trying to kind of, help build the environment.
No.
Yeah. Now, see, and if she's the one that's been prophesied about as the champion, then doesn't it make sense that some of these adversaries that are lined up against her were relevant to her former life?
Well, I guess my problem with that is it's supposed to be based on how the amount of power you have, both good and evil, is based on how good or bad you were in life. So what the story is telling you by having all the villains have a connection to her in some way is that she knew the worst people that ever lived and she knew the best people that ever lived.
Well, no, because the cat was brought up because he's like, hey, I heard you have a beef with the prophet.
But he was already a general. Like,
yeah, it doesn't mean he wasn't a major, he wasn't a major actor.
And then the lady that's like the assistant to the one guy, like the lady that's like the damn magician was like her high school like nemesis, and
it was like the mean girl from high school.
The mean girl from high school was there, and I don't know. It took me out. To me, I just felt like it took me out of the story a little bit because it's like really another person that like has a direct connection.
That's the only. It's like they overdid it with that.
Yeah. And I felt like it was like a couple of steps too far that didn't need to happen to tell the story.
Yeah.
That was just me. But I also wondered about the fact, because her dad talked about how huge the world is and how like he hasn't been to all of it or even close.
Mm-hmm.
So like, even though she's like the queen of this place, is that really just like a little corner of this world, how much power does she actually have? And
We will
that was
find
something
out
I'm
in the
curious.
next 4 volumes.
That we'll get in the way Millar works, we'll have those by 2057 or something like that.
By the time R.R. Martin finishes the next book in the game,
There you go.
Yeah, we'll have about the time he wraps up Game of Thrones. So we have both of those to look forward to. All right, so yeah, I spent my time on my little bit of a beef. What were some of the things you guys anybody have something they really want to talk about in terms of things they enjoyed about this other than the art?
I really like the.
Listen, there was 2 major things that I can nitpick about it. When they're on the hill where if you kill someone, you get granted a dark wish.
A Dark Wish, yeah.
And I wish you all were dead. She didn't kill anyone. So how did she get the wish?
Did it say that you had to kill somebody, or you just had to have a wish that was,
Negative, like a negative.
Well, the way the villains were talking about it, you had to kill somebody. Like her high school sweet or buddy, how great I get to kill you now and gain a magic wish for it. And it's mentioned before that too. She doesn't kill anyone, but she gets her dark wish. And then,
well, she didn't. Yeah, I get what you mean.
In the final battle, the old Deus Ex Machina of, her friend, the Fairy Queen, deciding to pop in at the last minute. That was a little too pat for me, but it worked.
It does work, but yeah, she comes in like the cavalry, right?
Yeah, I like her friend's story. I felt like the friend's story, the Fairy Queen story, was like the other part of this that I was like I enjoyed the fact that she was kind of bitter because it wasn't the afterlife she was expecting, because she was a person of whereas Bonnie was not a person of faith, that didn't believe and there was something beyond, and her friend did, and this was not what her friend was expecting. And but I also the part of her story I like the best is that when she moves on, that there's then an additional world, you just keep going, or at least that's what it's telling me. In this Reborn version of the universe, is you live another life and then you move on to another world and you live it again, and it doesn't necessarily end ever, the way, depending on how you're thinking about this.
And you don't come back as a rock, and you don't come back as a rock or a turtle.
No,
you just keep going.
You just keep going.
Yeah,
and so I did find that was interesting, but yeah,
but they never really said what happens afterwards, right? Because that was with her friend, the Fairy Queen, what she was going to find out, right? Is what's in the next life.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you see her.
You see her meeting her husband.
Yes. Yes, that is.
Yeah. So you don't know what's going on there, but it's implying that there's then again an additional world, right, that you go to.
This might be a prerequisite. It's purgatory. With all the fighting, it doesn't surprise me.
A lot of people say that this is purgatory.
Yeah.
I actually like the story of the friend, that she's bitter because of the way she lived her life and all. I thought that was
absolutely.
I thought that was great.
That spoke volumes about how our belief systems are based in religion, and are we prepared to be disappointed on the other side? When they find out that everything they believed in is untrue, right? Because we look at the world and we look at all these different religions, and some of them have similarities, but a lot of them are vastly different.
Yeah.
So I like that they touched on that. It made it more real.
I did as well. It's a little bit ballsy too, the way he handled it, because he kind of
Mark Millar.
Yeah, it's pretty ballsy because he kind of went with the person that the switch just gets turned off, and he switched it up a little bit. So I thought that was a great twist for him doing that.
Hey, D-Boss Gent. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, D-Boss. So, I'm not sure where I wanted to go after this. So what do we think of this, of the villain? Of this guy who clearly, like, so we actually opened the book with the villain. We don't really realize it. We opened the book with the villain and her husband.
Right.
And he's basically, in life, he was something we see all too frequent in the news, is like this mass shooting person who like killed 28 people, including her husband in life.
So I want to show this opening panel while we're talking about it, because, and this is not for people who are not into graphic scenes, but go ahead, JP, while I show this.
Yeah.
So,
We start off in Minneapolis, 2002. There's a guy walking down the street, right, and then he just gets sniped, right through his coffee cup, and then the next two guys around him get sniped before he even goes down.
Yeah.
Or three actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the panel, the art is fantastic, right? I mean,
yeah.
Capullo hit it out of the park on this,
Yeah.
the whole book, but this opening panel is so good.
Yeah. Even turn the page. Turn the page.
Well, and it's interesting. Remember in the last issue, they show it through his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, when you play me back and wonder if I had any regrets, I do. I really do. I wish I could have killed more.
Yeah.
He
Before the police showed up.
He earned his spot where he's at.
Exactly.
So,
and then you see the reincarnation. You see Harry, Bonnie's husband, being reborn in Industria, right? And them coming, finding him and like, hey, we got to get going.
And then I do say that the next page, which is the big giant splash.
Yeah.
It's a really cool Capullo. Just
like a big battle page.
Yeah.
Bring that in a little bit. Yeah. So you see the horizon in the distance. You see the big war machine over there coming towards them.
They suck you into the story right off the bat.
Right. I mean, it's a glorious opening, story cut, right? Bringing all this in, and really kind of going like you're drawn. You're like, what the hell is this? Yeah. Guy gets sniped. Some dude just winds up, on the grass somewhere, and there's a big, massive, Lord of the Rings battle going on behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got a lot of great twists to it.
Yeah,
I know. I'm sorry. I know. I said that. I didn't like the part, kind of like with JP, that they brought in so many of her past friends. I gotta say, when I was reading this, when the big reveal of the baddie came, I was like, "Oh shit!"
Right.
And I really liked that reveal. For that one, it was like, dude, that is badass. And I remember I was like, oh!
And see, for me, like, I actually really enjoyed that reveal. But to me, it would have carried more weight if we hadn't already got it was her cat. And it was her high school friend. And, it's her best friend. And it's like, if we hadn't gotten all of the others, that carries more weight for me, and that's my nitpick.
I see where you're going. It's just it was too much in the main characters.
But
I
still think the cat and him were really good. I mean,
the cat's angry because she had him neutered when he was
neutered.
Yeah,
and he lost his junk in the afterlife.
That's what pissed him off, I think.
I show up here, I still don't have any balls.
Well, I do think it was interesting, and I do have a question for this, because they talk about that the pets can find their master.
That's
and I found it interesting that the cat could find her husband, but couldn't find her.
Mm-hmm.
Because to him, her husband was.
Because
and then Roy
Boy cut off his balls.
Yeah, well, but the other thing is the dog found her dad really quickly, but could never find her mom.
Can't find the wife. Yeah.
Can't find the wife because he didn't have that necessarily the same attachment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's really what they were going for, but to me, like, that stood out to me as like, the pets, because animals a lot of times will
attach.
They'll attach to one of their owners more so than the others, and and I just felt like that was a very natural way to tell that story. Like, a lot of times you'll get a dog, and the dog becomes a person's dog more than anybody else's in the house. Even if there's 4 people and they all love the dog loves. There's one person the dog actually is like, yeah, you're the boss. You know,
I think there's a difference between like the person who's the boss and the person that they love more. You know, because the person the human being, the alpha, is typically somebody who's like being strict and handles the punishment. So
yeah.
Well, I really hope he does publish more of these. I'd like some of these questions answered, and she's going to find her mom at some point.
Right.
And all right, so now apparently all the bad people are in disarray. All right, so are all the bad people just congregated in this city? Remember when they go on their journey, her dad rattles off a list of places.
All the places they got to go through. Yeah.
Are there that many bad places too? I mean,
probably.
I'm curious to see what the rest of this world looks like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely being able to draw more into that.
I'll be honest, it would be interesting to me, and I don't know where they'll go with it, but like I would be up for like Bonnie obviously and her dad existing in the world, but like the next volume being somebody else getting dropped in and seeing a different corner of this. And
absolutely.
Like her just being like and getting some other stories, and then maybe having a final volume that like pulls some of the different characters together. But like I would be all about like, okay, give me another corner of this world. As opposed to just follow. Not that Bonnie wasn't interesting or her dad wasn't interesting. I just think that it would be an interesting way to go about telling this, as if you told it from other people being added to this world.
And I mean, even though Mark Millar's got he's got 5 volumes penned. I mean, like it's such a big world that other people you could have other writers and artists dig into this, and do completely different storylines.
Because I do feel like, whereas he sets up this giant world, but this is in many ways, a very small story. Like, this is a very, like, personal story for one character. Like, and so, like, it's kind of, there's these epic shots, and obviously this, epic bad guy and this kind of thing, but, like, it's very much just one character story. Like, we're not getting a whole lot of the world overall, and I would love to see like more of the world as opposed to necessarily more of Bonnie. And that's not because I didn't like Bonnie, it's just because I think there's a lot of potential elsewhere in this world.
Yeah, definitely. Ton of more characters that you could bring in.
And they're having this epic good and evil battle in this spot that we're introduced to. Who's to say that isn't being played out in a dozen different spots on the same world?
Yep.
That I'd like to see, like maybe. Well, never mind. All the champions coming together in the end, like you were saying, JP, have it all tied together.
And they got to fight Hitler. They got to fight Genghis Khan.
Right.
That would be the ultimate baddie. Stalin.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this guy, just a random crazy sniper, shows up with this much power, imagine one of the people you just rattled off, Hialeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's why I felt like it, in many ways it was a very small story within what had to be this world. And like, I'm curious of like, yes, he was the savior for this. I can't pronounce the stupid this part of the world, but how big is that? Is that like a city state in this giant world? Is that like actually like the entire good people area? It doesn't seem like it to me necessarily. So
it feels like she defeated the boss in stage 1,
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what she did. And now they're gonna move over to other, you're gonna go to level 2.
Yeah.
Boss battle.
I wouldn't mind seeing, where do the people that are sort of in the middle? Let me see some of them. People that did a lot of horror.
They were in They were in the cages.
They were in the cages.
Those were political, but they wound up in the bad place.
Yeah.
That's where they came from.
But they ended up being bad. That's what the father said. They always make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to see people that are like, borderline that might merit purgatory if you have the Catholic belief system. Like people that do a lot of bad in their life, but maybe pull off one final good deed that would get them in the good category, or vice versa.
Yeah, that they get redemption. Yeah,
Or somebody
somebody that
mainly good in their life, but does one heinous thing that gets them in the bad category.
maybe that's one of the other levels that he could go to. Explore that.
You need to come out with more, Mr. Millar.
well, I'm sure he's watching, so I'm sure that he's one of the 9 people watching. So,
Let me ask you guys a question. Have you guys read a lot of Millar? Because I've read a couple things from him. No,
I have not read a ton of Millar. No,
the original, what he did with Ultimates was pretty good. Kick-Ass, I freaking loved the first volume of Kick-Ass. Loved it.
yeah.
And I just read one of his Sharky, the Bounty Hunter. It came out in the last 2 or 3 years. Was pretty good.
I read that. I liked it. I liked that as well. The thing the point I was, maybe because it's miniseries, what I've read of him. I read this. Sharky's like 4 or 5, like 5 or 6 issues. The other one is Magic Order. That's like 5 or 6 issues. And it just seems like the story's great, man. I'm loving it. And then it's like he just wraps it up so fast and it's done. Boom. He puts a nice little bow on it, and you're out of there. Where he could have done so much more, and you want so much more.
I feel like it was a little rushed too.
Yeah, it's going good, and then it's all of a sudden the last issue is like, okay, bye, see you, thank you, and I'll be putting something else out in a month. That's the way it felt like to me.
And I'll be honest, I feel like this, like, I don't know, obviously I don't know him, I don't know what his actual plans are, but I do feel like the way he wrapped this up, like he may have 5 volumes, but Thunderhouse talked about, the problem with him is he may never go back to this. I could see him never going back to this.
Yeah.
Like,
it could be a shame. It is such a very well structured, idea.
Idea is great.
Yeah, like hand it off to somebody else if you're not going to do it, right? Let it grow, let it breathe. I mean, you laid the groundwork for an enormous world with a simple telling of a tale of good and evil in the afterlife. It's like this is not something you should just let go. I mean, and amongst all of the other things that are out there, this, in my opinion, this was gold, right? This was a great story and a great idea the way it was developed.
Yeah, I loved it, man.
It sold well, and it got pretty good critical reviews.
Yeah.
I would have to think he'll come back to it.
I mean, and I think if, I know it's been one that's been rumored that Netflix is in development. Like
they really should, because this would go well on Netflix.
And I could see that driving him to, if it does get developed and become something, that driving him to go back. But I could also see him just like turning those stories over and never going back to this.
Because if that's something that can be, those 5 volumes that he's got can be better developed into a series on Netflix, right? Like 2, 3, seasons of, 10 to 13 episode stories, then yeah, I mean, maybe that's why we haven't seen anything, is maybe because that's been, hot in development. But, sadly, no news about anything that's actually being developed.
Yeah.
That was a great point.
Thunder Houses?
Yeah.
Right,
I do feel like he's a little bit like a lot of these volumes, a lot of things he turns out that his creator owned or Millar World or whatever are just pitches to start something, and then he plans to tell it in a different format if it gets picked up and not in comic.
But I'm wondering if he started out that way because, the success he had with Kick-Ass and 2 movies, I'm wondering if he didn't start out as a comics writer and now he's like, well, shit, I got Hollywood money, y'all.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I mean, the fact that he turned out multiple miniseries for Kick-Ass and 2 films that were both, well received.
We got to show the baddie.
Oh, yeah. Hang on, wait.
It's legend. Very legend inspired. The whole world is, but
except he's white.
He's white, but that's a nice bat. He's a cool looking baddie.
Yeah,
he is a cool looking bad guy.
I would love to have that page.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, I'd love to have the one that's the cover. What is it? Is it from 5?
Oh, the one where he's on the cover. I was gonna go there. I was gonna see what you guys like. If you guys had a favorite cover.
Oh yeah.
That's in 5. That's in 4.
There's the cover of 6. He's on. That's the one where
That's
they're
a
fighting.
great cover. That's a great cover.
That's 6.
I like the that was pretty cool.
5, I thought, was the one where they're just like running through the.
Yeah, that's the one I like, where they're running over the skeletons.
Yeah.
You showed that one, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
Well, I showed all the covers at the beginning.
Yeah, 5 is this cover.
But it's this page that the cover of the trade comes from.
Right.
Right. Yes.
Right. And the page is awesome, but obviously that singular panel was primed to be cover material.
Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, in the foreground with the giant, castle in the background with, like light coming through and the kind of electrostatic discharge coming off of it. It's just really a great shot. Just that's from 6.
Tweak it just slightly to make the trade cover, which is a phenomenal trade cover. Yeah.
Just zoom it in and cut the bottom a little bit. Yeah,
Oh,
there were great covers from this. If you haven't looked, I mean, I'd say find the catalog of all the variant covers that were done for this book. There are some really great covers.
This one.
Oh my god, I totally forgot about that one.
This is the Jock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's the number 1. Yeah.
And then this is the McFarlane.
No, the McFarlane's
Actually,
the one
in my opinion, one of McFarlane's best pieces.
Yeah,
Pretty
I
nice.
had the first time I saw that cover, I had to have it.
Because I got these way after they premiered, right? They debuted, and again, it wasn't something that was like, it was very spot on with the release dates.
This one's Show.
That is show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So issue 6 is June of 2017. Issue 1 is October of 16. So it's like every other month.
Yeah.
There was the one that like.
I'm glad I ran into this story too when I first got back because it got me hooked on comics again. It was one of those stories that got me hooked.
One of the stories that definitely got you back in, which is awesome. I mean, like I know we kind of nitpicked a few things, but like it's still a really solid. I mean, it's a really great story. It's a very interesting world. I would have liked to have gotten more of the world and less of Bonnie, I think, but like that's just because because there's just the one volume, and it's like, and I feel like there's so much potential there. Like if we actually would follow it up with other volumes, I would probably feel differently about that.
Yeah, it left you wanting more.
Yeah.
Well, really, really good long-running series with the same creators is almost a lost thing in comics anymore, isn't it?
It is.
You got Saga, they just took a break. You got
Yeah.
Monstrous that has been around for a while with the same creators. It's just rare.
Yeah. You gotta love the Capullo. Just
So we keep talking about the cat.
yeah. Oh yeah, we haven't actually showed General Frost.
General Frost, right?
Yeah.
So
And he just knows when he's giving inspection, his men are muttering in the ranks behind him, ballless.
Yeah.
Right. So he's her cat, and she had him neutered at an early age, and after he dies, he doesn't come back with his testicles, and he's pissed. Because I mean, he was hate and spiteful to begin with, when he was her cat, but just even more so when he shows up there, he's like, seriously. But
here's the thing,
Finger. I'm gonna kill that bitch.
Very true.
Oh.
Yeah, he did.
That's as good a motivation for a supervillain as most.
This is true. Yeah.
Worked in Hancock.
He did.
Yeah,
The art
the Deep
series.
House. You're right, man. This, like I was saying earlier, this was my introduction to Capullo, and I love it.
The art's excellent.
Well,
You know,
so I was already reading Batman New 52 when when I got a hold of this. I think he finished this right before he jumped onto that because I think that came out.
New 52 was like way before this.
Was it 14? Yeah, it was. That's right. It was 14. So
Yeah,
he did this in the middle of the run.
Yeah.
How long?
Like 2010, 2012 when they went to New 52? Yeah.
I want to say it was at least 13 at the earliest. What was that? Really?
How long did he last on that Batman? I'll buy the Omni if he was on it.
All 52 issues.
Yeah.
I got to
Yeah, it was all him and Snyder the whole time.
Yeah. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo on that whole run, and it's well done. Like I sold it off as soon as it ended and made some serious coin on it. But I've gone back and I've bought every individual issue since bargain basing prices, right? Just so I had the story.
No.
It's good. But he doesn't get a chance to show up his art very much.
Yeah.
Like he was kind of trapped in Spawn for a very long time, right? And he's not doing his art; he's imitating McFarlane's art, right? Yeah. To give it that same texture and tone that McFarlane started with, right?
Yes.
One of the reasons why McFarlane grabbed him is because he could do McFarlane art so well. He's like, hey, I can just slap my name on it, right? With a little Capullo underneath, and But he did. I mean, he did like 100-something issues of Spawn. He was on Spawn for a long time.
Yeah, and I realized, of course, I'm not the biggest McFarlane fan. I prefer Capullo to McFarlane.
Absolutely, absolutely, any day of the week.
Better.
Although I've been pressing some ASM 300s lately, and everybody can kick my ass. I've never read it. But I'm going through the art. I'm like, wow, some of this stuff is really well done, and capturing the '80s hairstyles and everything that's difficult, right? In the way that McFarlane was actually able to do that. But I'll leave that McFarlane tangent there.
So we're coming up on our hour. You guys got anything else we haven't talked about on this that you want to discuss or bring up?
Read it. It's good.
Absolutely.
Unruly, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. I think we've covered most. It was like you said. It was a small story. It was great. I loved it, but it left us wanting more. But I think we've covered it.
Yeah.
One criticism I am going to throw out there is I do think the bad guy went down a little too easy.
It's like he wrapped everything up so fast.
Yeah, because
that's the whole last issue.
Yeah, so the last issue is double size. So like he was realized, crap, I dragged this out. It was only supposed to be 6 issues. Oh, I got to wrap this up. We'll throw in a couple extra pages to get more story, and we'll get it done. Because he's got a lot of plot points to tie up at the end after the epic battle because the guy's dead halfway through the issue. Right?
Yeah,
just past the midpoint where he's offed. But what I was trying to understand is he didn't have much in the way of his own power, right? Unless it was just being evil and being big and ugly and scary, because he wasn't really able to do anything to her. I mean, he tries drowning her in a pool of blood that he's using to make to power
the machine
portal. Yeah, the machine that creates a portal back to Earth so they can go and invade Earth. But and it's not that he went down easy that bothers me, but it's there wasn't enough to him. How did he get this station, right? Just because he's very commanding and he killed 18 people or.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You don't actually see him do anything.
No, yeah, he's in charge. I get that, but let's be honest, John Wayne Gacy killed more people, right? I want to see that story.
Well, he's bleeding them. He's bleeding them to open the portal.
Yeah, he's bleeding them to build a pool, right? But I'm saying he doesn't have much power. He the cat, was able to spear a whole bunch of followers.
I know what his power is.
People, yeah.
I know what his power is.
What?
He has some sexy dragon lion head sex. That's what he has.
That's weird.
That's his power.
Right?
He has dragon sex. That's what it is.
Lion-headed dragon sex.
Yeah.
Well, he
But
has
yeah,
the power to be able to command all these other evil people. That's a power.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but like he is like the fight. He doesn't really show much. Like he's not
He's banging the big baddie that does everything for him, man. That's his
basically.
power.
That dragon and the henchman torched that town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leveled it. Pulled
I
a
will say-
Daenerys Targaryen on it.
I do feel that's why I do feel like it's sort of a like this has got to be like a little corner of this world.
Yeah.
Like more like he had his little fiefdom of like area he kind of taking control of, but I find it hard to believe that he's truly the big bad of the dark place, like or the dark part of this world. Because if so, that's pretty anticlimactic. Like because he's like you said, he doesn't really put up much of a fight. I do feel like this was probably meant to be more of an introduction to the world, an introduction to her, like first, like step overcoming a personal baddie to a certain degree, and like that. I assume there was meant to be more that she was going to move on to bigger things, but we may or may not ever know. Who knows with Millar?
Yeah.
So,
And that's almost like how the book ended, was on that note.
Yeah. Like she's like queen of a district now or something like
Yeah.
that. Really? Or is she just a champion? You know, it leaves you. It definitely leaves you wanting to know more. And it also makes sense that like why this guy went down so easy is that he wasn't that big a bad. You know, that he wasn't. He was just in that corner.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, imagine how much power someone like, say, Margaret Thatcher would have over there.
Okay. On that note.
Too funny.
Okay, well, I think we've, because it's only 6 issues, I think we've covered about everything other than like the really fine details. Hialeah, you got anything coming up you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Man, do I? Next week on Behind the Comics, we're interviewing Beta Ray Jim.
Right on.
Next Wednesday at 9. I've dropped a video today, but that's about it.
All right.
Not too much.
Jimmy, you got anything coming up?
I got lots of stuff going on. We're in the middle of the $4,000 comic buy that I did, and I think I got 2 more videos coming out for that. Those are airing on Saturdays the next couple of weeks. We are in the middle of the Monster Marvel comic collection show off, and I will be hosting claim sales on that collection in the next few weeks. I've got some display material on its way, so I'm going to get a little setup here in the basement and just start doing some claim sales through over the next few months. And right after this at 9:45, I am going to be joined by my friend Man Cave to open this big old box that he sent me.
Ooh.
He says the box size is just because he was getting rid of boxes. There's only one thing in here, I almost believe him. I'm sure he's not. I'm sure he's not TJing. I'm sure it's just full of peanuts.
Maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, so we'll be opening that up. He sent me a Golden Age book off my hunt list. So that should be pretty interesting to see.
Wow.
And it's from his personal collection too, which is fantastic.
Wow. Nice.
Man cave AOKs are deadly.
Usually, they're usually top notch.
Yeah. So if you've seen my 2021 hunt list, you're going to be like, oh shit, which one is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
crazy.
Can't wait. I can only imagine if I can't wait, I can only imagine you.
I've had this for a week and a half.
Oh my goodness.
There's no way. There is no
There's
way.
no way.
But no, you guys got to understand, I have, aside from this, I have 2 other slabs, another one off my hunt list, and 3 more packages that just came in today that I haven't opened up yet. So I'm just trying to figure out, to do, I can either just do it all in one shot, or I can, kind of create a silo.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly right.
Instant content.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So I haven't had a lot of time to film lately, so I'm going to try and do some of that filming tonight after the thing with Man Cave. But like, I need a haircut before I go on camera again.
There you go.
My COVID hair, it's very Charlie Brown right now.
Unruly. I know you put out all that content, man. What you got coming up?
I couldn't begin to list it all. Next week, Sharon is going up against.
Oh, I saw that. Who is she going up against?
I don't remember now.
I don't remember, but it's Sharon.
Mr. Comics.
Who?
It's
on Mr. Comics 89 channel. Yeah. The show or the
matchup.
Sabertooth is going up against Reverse Flash, and
that's right. That's right.
Skimmy, we can barely hear you, man. Can you fix Mike? I can barely hear you. What channel is this on? What show is this?
Mr. Comics 89. It's called The Knockout.
The Knockout.
Okay.
So I need her to win because I don't want to fight Reverse Flash.
Are you on following her or the following week?
I get the winner.
Yeah,
you get the winner?
He won the last one.
Oh, gotcha. And then we got Comigories coming up next Monday?
Is it?
Is Comigories Monday, JP?
Comigories is next Monday.
And so the returning champion is Kachun? No.
Kachun is the returning champion. Yes. I don't know how you guys got to that, but yeah. But yeah, that's next Monday.
Now, was that his first win or his second?
He's only won one. So. Okay,
so he is.
So there's been a pretty big delay. We did the little April Fool's Day special, and then John took an extra week because he was trying to get some things on off week scheduling, like the way his scheduling was working, trying to make his schedule work a little better. So we took an extra week. Technically, Comigories was supposed to be yesterday, but we pushed it to next week. So
I think I'm coming up. I'll be back on there again.
Okay, nice. So
I will not.
Chicken.
Oh, we're gonna get you back on.
I'm hanging up my hat, dude.
Your favorite
Look,
show.
I just hung up my hat. Look live. No.
We're getting you back on.
I'm debating. I'm debating pulling only from a limited selection from my collection. I go, if it's not in here,
that might be the way to go.
What would be awesome if you had like an AF-15 or an.
Wouldn't it be awesome if I had an AF-15?
No, but I mean for Comigories, I don't care if the whatever the category was.
Yeah, I have an AF-15.
Yes, this is the better book. I
don't care if it doesn't fit the category, but it's $20,000.
I'm playing this book. What's that? Every time.
I'm buying the title.
You're not buying the title. You bought the book. The title comes.
I'm buying the title with the book.
Well, then we have Kavi, who could show one of his 3 AF-15.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it's only 2, but
is it 2?
It's 2. It's 2.
Well, that's right. It's Knights, I think, that has 3 of them.
Damn. Yeah. So he's only got 2, but yeah.
Only.
So yeah, I got my usual weekend stuff
without the hat.
Hey, Hialeah. I'm in Florida in the middle of May.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Where?
I'm born in Orlando. I'm not gonna be in Miami, but I'll be in Orlando.
Oh,
get the crew together for a road trip.
There's a ton of stores in Orlando, man. A ton.
I've heard. Yeah, I've been to Coliseum. I like Coliseum.
They had like 4 or 5 shops alone.
Yeah, it was the one to the east. It was close to the beach.
I don't know if I've been
close, but it was like on.
Oh no! I have been to the one on the beach.
I think it's like they've got like a coffee shop or a bar connected to it or something like that.
Man, have I been to that?
I think they call it. Yeah, it's like I think it's the Warriors Bar because I ran into the owner here in Chicago at C2E2 at the Diamond Summit, and he was talking about it. Yeah.
I don't know if I've been to that. They got one on the West Coast that I've been to. That's the one I've been to in Tampa.
Yeah. Oh, Tampa. Yeah.
Yeah, they have one on the beach there. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Back to you, JP.
No, you're okay, but we're slipping into the after show.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. But yeah, I got Comigories next week. I got my usual weekend stuff this weekend. I will be around to do my weekend stuff, and I don't have a indie show scheduled for next week, so I think the next one is The Wicked and Divine on the 27th will be the next time we do one of these. So we'll be wrapping that up. We're doing volumes 8 and 9 and finishing that up. So with that, we're going to get out of here. Hey, Bill, what's going on? We're leaving, but thanks for stopping in. And we will catch everybody next time.